Hey team, Johnny Wells here. Welcome to the show. Today, I am so grateful to present our guest, Milana Ostroy. Milana is a 20-year real estate veteran in the San Francisco Bay Area, boasting well over 600 million in past sales. She's highly sought after as a luxury specialist, having sold many 8-figure properties. And today, we're going to discuss how she built her business around the idea of empowering her clients with so much value, it wouldn't make sense for them to work with anyone else. Milana, how are you today?
Hi, Johnny. Thank you so much for having me on. I'm super excited to be here. I love sharing and learning from others as well. So really happy to be here.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on. I'm really happy to talk to you for many reasons. But whenever I meet someone, whether it's a new coaching client or a networking opportunity, an acquaintance, I'm always hoping to learn something or be maybe reinforced in something that is like really important to me. And when we first spoke, the first thing that I thought to myself was, oh, she gets it. Like there's a lot more here than just hard work. There's you bring a level of intention and thoughtfulness that I think is uncommon even amongst the uncommon.
Thank you. Thank you. That's a big compliment.
Yeah, big compliments are easy when they're true, right?
Thank you.
Yeah.
I do believe that having a wealth of information and how to interpret that information for others to be able to make empowered decisions is really important. And so I definitely dive deeper than most in a lot of topics surrounding real estate construction, design, wealth building, anything around that.
Yeah, there's so much there because it's my take that you're kind of an advocate for your clients and for their wealth as well in a lot of ways that maybe takes a certain level of initiative and again thoughtfulness that is not common. So just to touch on that, as we mentioned, you've sold over $600 million in real estate. The vast majority of our listeners would love to emulate that at some point in their career. And so it's my take that you've done that, or what we'll be discussing a bit is how to provide your clients with so much value that it wouldn't make sense for them to work with anyone else.
Exactly. So a lot of times, the way I met my clients, especially when I just got into the business, is I did open houses. And the only thing that I can pinpoint that got these clients to work with me time and time again was the fact that they used to stand in line to listen to me, to talk to me, to pick my brain. And I don't think it's because I was trying to sell them, but rather I was trying to provide them with helpful information and strategies, basically empower them with education and information that they can apply to themselves to help them make the right decisions for themselves. Because you and I can get the same information, we can interpret it differently. It can apply to us differently. So part of the job of educating and informing them of all this information is helping them understand what it means for them. Something really simple that I think all agents can relate to. We're all doing market updates, right? We're looking at the market. Generally, we look at it quarterly. Some of us look at it monthly, and we regurgitate stats. Oh, there was 27 transactions in, Burlingame, California, and 18 of them were above $2 million. But what does that mean for our clients, right? So I see a lot of agents out there doing market updates, but I don't think that's what they need to hear. They need to hear, what does this information mean to them? If they're buying or if they're selling, how does this apply to their needs and their real estate goals? So that's my big thing is people don't just need to be served information, because all of us can see the same information, but we may not all understand it. So we're there as the experts to understand and interpret the information for them so they can apply it in a way that they see how this will affect them.
I do have to tell you, I have seen some market updates. I have seen some market update postings from clients and other agents. What does it mean to you to and how does it feel in your day to day to be able to empower your clients in this way?
So I am, when I was growing up, the best way to answer this is when I was growing up, I knew I didn't want to be in sales. Isn't that funny? And here I am.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I remember in college sitting in my sales class, and they're telling me that sales is where the money's at, and you better learn to sell. And I said, I will never sell a thing. But the way I approach sales is so different that I actually feel comfortable selling because I am not pushing a product. I am rather helping them see the options that are out there and then empowering them with information, not just about the product, but how it could affect them in the future, how it could affect their wealth, how it could affect their family. And then I am interpreting that information for them so that they can make the best decision for themselves. So in the case of buyers and sellers, we can't tell them, oh, this is the best house for you. This is it, right? They've got to come to that themselves. So the things that I will provide them with is, hey, here are the things that I see that you may not see that may hurt the value of the house in the future. My job, in the way I see it, is to let them know not all the good stuff, because I think we can all see the good stuff, but to let them know all the bad stuff. And if they're comfortable with all the bad stuff, that's how you know it's the one, right? It's like relationships. There's no perfect person. I'm not perfect. Somebody else isn't perfect. But what we try to do is find somebody whose imperfections we can live with. And it's very similar when you're looking for a house or you're looking for investments. You just want to know what you're getting and make
Yeah.
sure that that aligns with who you are, what you want, and if that aligns with the future that you're expecting.
That is so congruent with relationships that it's just hard to not even go off on that tangent. But
Right?
yeah,
I just
yeah.
say.
You want the flaws and the benefits that you can live with.
I see agents showing property and they say, oh, this is the living room and I love the fireplace and the kitchen is so spectacular. But the reality is, our clients aren't bringing us on the showing to tell them what they can already see. I think seeing the good parts is the easy part.
Yeah.
When I go and I show property, I look for the problems. Not because I want to talk them out of the sale, but because I want them to understand what they're getting into so that they can make the right decision for themselves. So I will point out things like, hey, the ceiling and windows are not aligned. So there could be a structural issue. Hey, the property has some mold damage. Here's what it's going to take to fix it. Are you guys comfortable with that? In that sense, again, it's interpreting the information. When we look at a property, we talk about lifespan, right? The lifespan of the roof, the lifespan of the heater. It doesn't mean that it's a today issue, but if the roof is going to need to be changed within the next 5 years, I'd rather they know now than buy the house and call me in 2 years and say, we didn't know that the roof had to be changed. And that's really affecting our property value. And we're real upset about it, right? So there's information on every level. There's market information, property information, and then there's strategies on how to build wealth through real estate, strategies on negotiation, strategies on pricing, strategies on marketing. So there's all of that. And I don't just serve it to them on a dish, but I generally will walk them through in the interpretation of the information, but through a series of questions, because everybody has to come to their own conclusion. If I told you, Johnny, this is great, you're going to be like, why is she saying that? What's wrong with it?
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
But if I walked you through, hey, this property is undervalued because you see that extra piece of land back there, you could put an ADU back there. Now with that ADU, you can increase your square feet. So now you can increase the value of the property. You could rent out that ADU. So now you can have monthly income. Doesn't that seem like a great value add opportunity? And then you would be like, yeah, that's a great value add opportunity. I didn't tell you that it's a great opportunity. I walked you through it. So there's a lot of ways to deliver information. That's a whole other
Yeah.
bucket. But that's how I try to empower the clients with information and have them draw their own conclusions.
Yeah. So you've developed expertise in so many different areas of real estate and tangential, from developing, investing, design, tax advantages. And we'll circle all back to that. But, for agents who want to emulate your success, it's easy to see this kind of position where you are now with, 600 million plus or well over in past sales. And it's easy to see that yard marker and see how far away that is. What was it like when you first started?
So when I first started, I had just lost everything. So in a sense, I came from a mindset that I had nothing to lose. And because of that, I took more risks. So the first thing that I did is I got a bunch of open houses, kept myself busy at open house. It was holiday season when I first got my license, and I worked through the holidays. Didn't take any weekend off. I worked day and day night at open house. I decided to pursue a listing that 5 other agents didn't sell. And I was just like, well, I got nothing to lose. So I went door knocking, and I definitely am not a proponent of door knocking, and I hated it. But I just figured I had nothing to lose and everything
Yeah.
to gain. So here I go. And I started door knocking. The guy answered the door, and he did not give me the listing. He did listen to my pitch and said, well, if you can sell my house, I will sell it, but I'm not going to sign a listing agreement. So I said,
Mm.
well, I don't want a listing agreement. I just want to be able to show and sell it. And he said, yeah, fine. So what I would do is I would work these open houses and try to pick up clients for that house. And, the off market beauty, right? Like that cool saying, oh, I've got
Yeah.
an off market property. And everybody wants to know what off market property you've got. So I utilize that to intrigue clients to follow up with me and bring them into that listing. Now, did any of them buy that listing? No. But did they go on a showing with me? Absolutely. What
Absolutely.
did that do?
Yeah.
That made them spend some time with me. And people work with people you like, and you trust. Well, I had the opportunity to build the trust because I had followed up. I had an actual off market listing that I actually took them to. So now I created trust. They liked me because they picked up the phone again, and then they got to know me during that time. So now all of a sudden I've built customer loyalty just off a property I door knocked just to say that I've got an off market listing. So that's how I had my first clientele. Did I get the listing eventually? Actually, I did. So I eventually got the listing. It was $5 million, my very first listing. Meanwhile, my first sale was $420,000. It was a townhouse in San Jose, a city I had never visited before.
And this was $5 million listing, 20 years ago.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And so I got this listing, but things quickly escalated. And if I could ever imagine a learning curve like this, I don't know that I would sign up. But here was my learning curve. My seller stopped paying his mortgage, didn't tell me. So his property went into default. My seller beat up a police officer of the town and went to jail. So now there's a bail bond. Then the seller's wife had to file a bankruptcy to stop the foreclosure. And meanwhile, I am holding open house and trying to sell this baby.
Yeah.
And it was a 7,000 square foot mansion with a huge pool, an acre of grounds, a tennis court, not maintained. So there I am cleaning and doing everything myself. So I was the maid. Hi. I was visiting my client in jail, and I had to learn how to deal with bail bond liens, foreclosure, eventually short sale. And I also went into bankruptcy court to justify pulling the property from the bankruptcy in order to facilitate the sale. So that's my learning curve, first listing.
Wow. Uh,
Um,
Real estate agents have the best like cocktail stories, right? I
I
mean,
mean,
just you can't beat that.
that was wild. It did get wilder, but I eventually sold it actually twice. So the first time I accepted an offer, they turned out to be scam artists. When I realized that, I unilaterally pulled my clients out of escrow and sold it to a Morgan Stanley exec. And that's when I went to bankruptcy court to show that there's no value in the property, to release it from the bankruptcy so that we could facilitate the sale. But yeah, it was the learning curve of a lifetime.
Yes, that kind of creativity and grit is what can't be substitute.
And I utilized it to pick up clientele at open house.
Yes.
So even though they didn't buy it or they weren't in that price range, the fact that I was in the community and I had an off market opportunity that I
Hmm.
created myself is something that all agents can do. They can do it from any expireds is a great way to start. FISBOs. It's just, these people want to sell, but they didn't sell.
Mm.
So the likeliness is that they actually do want to sell. And though you may not end up with the sale, if you can leverage it where you can create a relationship with them and also utilize it to create relationships with new clients that you meet or expose yourself to, then you can create opportunities for yourself that you didn't initially have.
Yeah, two things. So as I was listening with anticipation of that story, I was kind of wondering where it was going to go. I was like leading ahead, and the first thing I thought is when you started marketing your off market listing and bringing people over there, I thought, wow, did she really sell it to one of those buyers? That's pretty remarkable. There's definitely some luck in there. So that was like a 0.5 second thought, and the next one was I thought, well, that's a really good way to earn the listing. Like that's a great way to build
So I did.
credibility with the seller because you really earned that listing. Because if I'm the seller and I'm underwhelmed with the performance of five other agents, and I see this person with no skin in the game who's working and bringing people by, that must have been what did it.
That absolutely. That's exactly it. And the fact that I told him I didn't want the listing. I think what most agents, this is another point, but it's a really helpful one if agents are out there listening. The number one thing in negotiation is the takeaway.
Mm,
Okay. And often agents fear the takeaway because they're afraid of people walking away. If I can do one thing for any agent out there, it's to strip them of their fears. So the first thing I did is I told him I don't want the listing. The second thing is when he wanted to give me the listing, I said, I don't want it. Right. And it's not that I didn't really want it. I just wanted him to know I'm okay to walk away. And when you're okay to walk away, people start to fidget. They start to be,
mm.
oh, wait, wait. Right. And it's the same thing when I negotiate for a buyer against a seller or a seller, when I'm negotiating with buyers. You have to be able to be comfortable to walk away. If you're not, you're always at the whim of the other side. So, if you go after FISBOs or expireds and they're going to be hesitant, they're going to be upset, they're going to be disappointed, as you said. But if they hear that you don't want anything from them, they're going to be a lot more open.
Mm.
And then if you have the opportunity to create a relationship, going back to they need to get to know you, they need to like you, and then they need to trust you. Without any of that, you've got nothing. So if you can establish the opening door to establish those three foundations for any client, then you will win a client.
That's beautiful. And that can circle right back to what we're discussing here is that in order to achieve that, putting the client first and just how can you provide overwhelming value to them to where it does not make sense for them to work with anyone else. You don't have to ask for it. You just give, provide, you're there, and they're drawn to that.
Absolutely. And when you give them more than they need. So, for example, let's say I'm working with buyers and, we get to, and they're first time home buyers, and we get to the home buying escrow part. We have those conversations about if they're going to be doing joint tenancy or tenancy in common, one of the things I bring up to them is I said, well, do you guys have a will or a trust? Have you thought about the tax advantages? And they usually never do. And they said, well, no, we've never thought about it. No one's ever talked to about it. We don't know who to talk to about it. So I give them my personal experience that I believe will help them. And then I connect them with my network of people that can help them do things. Like, one of the things that I tell people is I recommend that they don't hold the property in their personal names, for example. Um, and then they can go out and find out more, right? Because we can't give them, for example, tax advice and estate advice, but we can give them our own personal experience. And then they can take that experience and apply it for themselves. But what they always say is, thank you so much for sharing. We would have never known. And then when they're, done, when we finish and we close escrow, I always congratulate them on their real estate, their new home, but also their new first nest egg. And I said, now's the time to be thinking about building wealth through real estate investing. And there's a lot of ways to invest. So then I spend time with them to educate them in all the different ways to invest so that they can have that at the back of their minds right away. Because the number one thing is helping people build wealth. Home is where your world, it's also a financial decision, but then taking it the next step and showing them that you're trying to help them build wealth and get to the next level, even if they're not there right now, just educating them at that moment helps them prepare for where they want to be. And then, for example, I just parked a client a home about a year ago. And after close of escrow, I said, hey guys, now's our time to talk about wealth building. And we had dinner. We talked about all the different strategies. And I said, I know you're not ready right now, but I want you to start thinking about it so you can take the steps that you need to take to start doing it. Well, it's been just over a year. They called me and they're ready to invest, right? And they've told all their friends about investing, and they were so motivated by the information and the options out there that they didn't even know. You would think everybody knows, but when you're not in our field, they really don't. All they know is what they see on TV. They see people fixing and flipping. They may not, know about the Burr method. They may not know that they can be private money investors. There's so many things people out there don't know. So when you open their world, open their mind, they're extremely grateful that you've shared something. They haven't paid you for it. They haven't asked you for it. You just did it because you want to help them. And I think that is what's unforgettable. And it creates a feeling that they know that you've got their back.
How's that feel for you also?
For me, it's honestly the best feeling in the world. I'm a wealth of information, but it does no good staying between these ears, right?
Yeah.
It does nobody good. It doesn't do me good. It doesn't do you good. It doesn't do agents or clients good. I like to be, in general, I just love helping people. I love sharing my knowledge and education because the more I talk about it, the more I attract, the more I solidify and learn, right? If you just never speak about something, it kind of diminishes away.
Yeah. So you had said something to the effect of that, we can share our experience with our clients, right?
Yes.
You have a wealth of experience in all sorts of different areas, especially in real estate and investing and developing and building, working with investors. So how do we help other agents kind of see the forest through the trees, right? And get off this focus of, say, this particular deal just itself or finding that next one, and to really be kind of a true professional, like a real consummate professional in real estate who has developed these other resources and skill sets. How can they either shift their mindset into that way, or where's a place where they can start and have useful, uncommon, creative value adds for their clients?
So I think the first, for me, the first thing that I recommend, if they can, is to actually do some investing themselves, right? Not everybody can do that right away. But the other thing is that they need to be educated in a variety of ways to invest in real estate. Everybody always thinks, well, you buy property and you either flip it or you hold it
Yeah.
or you rent it, right? But there's so many other types of real estate investing. And so what I did when I started is I spoke with people who have done that. I got some expertise, some tips, why they went that strategy and not another strategy. Um, how they enabled leveraging to help them. One of the best things about real estate is leveraging, right? When you buy stocks, you need cold, hard cash. When you buy real estate, you need good credit and a little bit of cash. So there's a variety of options. And when you're educated about it, then you can communicate it to your client as, there's not only one way to do this.
Mm.
And clients, honestly, when you're working with investors, especially, it's very difficult for them to find those unicorn properties, I call them, right? Great deals, great investments. They don't know how to define a great investment. So they really need somebody who has that expertise or the vision to create that property. There's not going to be a property on MLS that's going to be like labeled great investment, right? So we have
Selling
to
undervalue just for you.
Exactly. We have to recognize it and then communicate what that value might be. So, for example, I'm showing a duplex tomorrow on a huge piece of land. And because it's a huge piece of land in a multi-zone area, and because California has a housing shortage, and because there's no single family home zoning and ADUs are being pushed, I know that that property can hold 3 more units easily and has the space to do it. So that duplex can now be a quadruplex with an ADU. And that's something that when investors look at that listing, they're not thinking about that. They just see a duplex. So we are here to help them understand why it's a good investment. That's why I go back to giving information doesn't do anything. Interpreting the information is everything.
And something from what you said that I don't want to miss, obviously people are in different spaces on their journey in real estate of what they're able to do. But, if I'm a buyer, I'm a seller, if my agent doesn't practice what they preach, if they don't own properties, if they don't buy and stuff like that, it's off-putting to me. And also, like, from my background in sales, it's so important. You become so much more effective if you're in alignment with what you're selling, right? If you truly believe in what you're selling, right? And so I'm sure you'll have some thoughts on that. But yeah, if you truly believe in what you're selling, then, how is it that you're a real estate professional and you haven't gobbled up some of those amazing opportunities that you see for yourself every now and then?
That's exactly right. And it's also hard to speak about the process, the feelings, the emotions, the tax disadvantages or advantages, because you can only regurgitate what you learn in a book.
Yeah.
But when you practice what you preach, now you have real life experience. A lot of times my clients will ask me why I know about pipes and air conditioning. Well, it's because I've built houses, I've renovated houses, and those things come up and you have to make a bunch of decisions. If you are in real estate for a while and you haven't purchased a property, it's very difficult for you to gain that trust. And especially realtors, because realtors get a chunk of money at a time. And it's not like you have to purchase, the house of your dreams. You can be purchasing, in a neighborhood an hour away just to own a rental property. This concept, like you have to, own the best house in your neighborhood to show off. Nobody needs that. Nobody cares about that. They just want to know that you've done it, you own, you practice what you preach, especially if you're preaching building wealth. And honestly, that's constantly what I preach, even when I'm working with home sellers and home buyers. So it's all a part of trying to align yourself to be in a position where you're going to gain expertise, where you're going to practice what you preach, and when you're going to provide your experience to your clients so that you can add value to what they're doing and they can learn from you.
Yeah, I of course want to avoid talking about myself, but I just can't help but think. So when I first started investing in real estate, my neighborhood median was $1 million, right? And this was several years ago. And so I purchased a house in Texas for $150,000 because I thought, you know what? I don't know what I'm doing when I renovate this property, and doing it remotely presents its own challenges. But I knew I could afford to fuck up.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly,
I
right?
knew, I said, like, I could fuck up major on this thing. Like, I got plenty of room to learn a hard lesson on this $150,000 property. So my first six purchases were all in this kind of like couple $100,000 price range, out of state, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how much did you put down?
I didn't put anything down. Yeah.
Oh, well,
Yeah,
see,
I went hard money on it, and I got a good rate from a buddy, and I had it all planned out. I didn't put nothing, not a thing.
that's what I'm saying is that
Yeah.
almost anybody can get into real estate. You could start real small. It
Yeah.
doesn't have to be in prime California neighborhoods where things are millions of dollars.
Absolutely. And when you
Um,
have a $20,000 renovation budget, right? I thought to myself, well, I could miss the mark by, 100%. And I just learned an expensive lesson, like
yeah,
expensive is in $20,000 lesson. People spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on degrees, So, you know, for the people who are in this position of like they're ready, the agents that are ready to practice what they preach and be able to bring more to the table. You don't need as much as you think. You just have to be creative and motivated, for sure.
absolutely. I mean, I bought my first property when I was 19 with the help of my parents. So I had been working full time since I was 17.
Mm.
So I had a salary and benefits and blah, 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 starting at 17 years old. And at 19, I told my parents I'm moving out. And they said, "Where are you going?" And I said, "I don't know. I'm going to rent a place." And they said, "Rent? What?" No. And I said, "Well, I make good money, right?" By the way, good money for me back then, my salary was $26,000, right?
Woo, big timer.
17 years old, though. Come on.
Yeah, heck yeah.
Well, I think by 19 I hit 27,500, right? So I said I can afford some kind of mortgage payment, but I didn't have the down payment. So my parents did put the down payment. I had the mortgage, and then I used my money to renovate the property the following year. Then I refinanced because I had add value and paid my parents back, and then had this new mortgage.
You had a
But
mortgage making $13 an hour.
you see, so everything is possible. And that's like, everyone thinks that this is so impossible. There's always a way if you have the will. And
Yeah.
if you don't know how, reach out to people who may help you. There's nothing wrong with reaching out. People have it's like, it's like people asking for directions. Some people just refuse to ask for directions. I'm
Mhm.
like the first. Why waste time
Yeah.
looking? Let's just stop and ask. Um, but when I got into investing, my first investment properties were actually in Arizona. I was trying to remember the year. I think it was 2003. Bought some condos in Arizona because there was a huge new development out there, and all this tech was coming out there. So that was my first investment properties, also outside of California. Also, I think it was under 300,000. And we had
Yeah.
to put like 5 or 10% down. It was something silly. That's why I bought three.
See, that it's so useful. Again, it's so useful for our listeners to hear, right? Because people judge by what they see, and they compare themselves. So they see where you're at, and there's assumptions that are made, and it's a large distance for some people to get to. But
Yeah.
you and I both purchased our first properties out of state for fractions of anything else that, we did
Yeah.
afterwards, right?
Yeah. And,
Yeah.
and made some mistakes along the
Totally.
way.
Totally.
And, had some expensive learning lessons. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
But we did. We're not perfect. We live and we learn. Eventually, I learned about private money loans, hard money as you called it, and I was like, "Wow, that's amazing. I want to do that too." So, I'm definitely an investor on like the hard money side. Yeah, you don't own the property, but you also don't have to pay for the mortgage, taxes, insurance, right? And you make the interest. So there is some benefit there. I'm a big proponent of diversification,
Mm.
but my diversification is throughout real estate.
Yeah.
I don't touch stocks.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
um, in any case, I'm a big, one of the things that the agents don't realize is in addition to making real estate as their source of income, they also get a huge discount by being in our business, right? So when they buy and sell, they don't have to pay or earn commission. So they can apply that to the sale. And I think a lot of agents don't take advantage of
Yes.
that. That's one of the key things about being in real estate. You know, I tell all agents, you want to, of course, help your clients buy and sell, but you want to accumulate your real estate portfolio. You want to invest in real estate because it's a lot cheaper for you to invest as a real estate agent or a broker than for the, clients.
Yeah. Absolutely. Um, it's something I don't want to miss, or that I want to circle back to kind of tie up this conversation, was you said the number one takeaway that you want to impart on others is to strip them of their fears. So what's a couple fears that we could help strip away for people,
For
listeners?
agents.
Yeah.
So, agents often, in my opinion, they always worry about, you know, losing a client, losing a seller, losing a buyer. And the funny thing is, I truly do believe this is that whatever is going on up here is going to happen in reality. So you're almost manifesting your failure, okay? Because
Practicing for it.
yeah,
Yeah.
the universe doesn't hear, positive or negative. They just hear whatever you think. So if that's what you're going to be thinking, that's what's going to happen. When you communicate with sellers, I see agents just, whatever the sellers want, they'll agree to, but it doesn't set proper expectations and creates disappointment. And therefore, there's no real long sustainable business. Don't be afraid to lose your clients. Your clients are hiring you for your expertise and experience. So don't be afraid to share that because you think they're not going to agree with you. Um, you know, don't be afraid of the takeaway in terms of any kind of negotiation. If you're going after clients, you can take away that salesy moment by saying, "Hey, I'm not looking for your business. I just think that you might be interested in this." Or, "I don't want this listing. I just want to be able to sell it if you truly do want to sell it. Do you want to sell it? Yes. Do you want to sign a listing? Maybe not today." So that's cool because I don't want to spend my time and marketing dollars on you. I just want to sell your property. And
Yes.
if I sell it and you like the buyer and you like the price, would you sell? Yes, absolutely. Would you pay a commission? Yes, absolutely. But then when they see you work hard for them, when they know that there's a takeaway there, you change the way they feel. And this is applicable not only to anywhere in our business, but to anything in life. You give people control when they know that you fear. You take away the control when they know you've got nothing to fear.
Love it. Love it. And you change the way they feel. That's so powerful.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you. I'm going to wrap this up with just a couple other unrelated questions here. Right.
Okay.
Um, so a key realization I see in my clients just before they're ready to make major progress on their goals is a realization that the skills that got them here to this point are not necessarily the same skills that will get them to the next point. So
True.
can you share any advice or a time in which your own success, right? Maybe this is lots of listings at once, has forced you to grow in further ways, and what people can do to develop themselves further.
Okay. So one of my a big growing pain was I got so busy trying to jumpstart my career. Um, and then I realized when I had gained some success that I didn't brand myself. So what I pivoted to is branding myself, getting the community to get to know me and identify my presence without actually even meeting me. Whether it's, back then we did print advertising.
Hmm.
And I had a logo, and the logo wasn't my picture, which was not the standard default for the industry. So branding, and also don't worry about what the standard default is for the industry. Doing something outside the box actually catches more attention and gets people to get to know you and identify you a lot faster. So that would be one thing.
Yeah.
And then, more recently, much later in my career, what I learned is that it's a very time consuming business. And the key about real estate is you can be busy all the time and earning zero, right? So you need to
Yes.
focus your time on things that are going to be generating you business. So we're talking about prospecting, lead generation, um, brand reputation, things like that. Um, I used to do everything myself, right? Didn't have a transaction coordinator, not because I couldn't afford one. That's fine. But it was because I didn't trust anybody to do as good of a job as me, because I'm super detailed, and not everybody puts in that perfection of work. So it took me a long time to delegate, and then getting VAs and other people to help in other aspects of the business that were draining my time but not producing income. It took me a really long time to figure that out. I wish that I had somebody tell me sooner, hey, that stuff you have to have somebody else handle so you can focus on lead generation and prospecting and marketing.
So this, my observation, one of the biggest limiting factors that I see all the time for agents at a certain level that's keeping them from getting to that next level is a general aversion to hiring help. And there's all these excuses. There's, I'm a perfectionist, they're not good enough. There's these I had a bad experience one time, which is a data set of one, right? Okay, so we'll just never hire help ever again because you put zero effort in interviewing and training and setting expectations with a person who then underdelivered, and now you have a bad taste in your mouth for hiring help. So very useful to hear that when you get to a certain point and you got to grow, you have to figure out what your highest leverage activities are. And you can't be doing, $10 an hour work or $20 an hour work. You have to let someone else do that for you and take ownership over the process of making sure you get the right person and they know what their expectations are.
Yeah, and I can tell you that I think the number one challenge with realtors, not only being one myself, but I've built such a network of peers and
Mm-hmm.
friends in the industry, is that real estate agents are not that systemized in their business. So when they
No,
hire somebody, they don't know what they need these people to do, right?
no idea.
Um, and when I got into the business, there was no VAs, there was no virtual assistants. I
Yeah.
mean, there was, like I said, print advertising. We didn't have navigation systems. We had Yahoo Maps we used to print out. And if you took the wrong turn, good luck.
Yeah.
And we had only live assistants. So I did have bad experience with my live assistant, or, that there's turnover because people, you make it look so easy. Everybody thinks that they can do it on their own. But now, what I think agents don't realize is you have the option to have not only in house assistants, but virtual assistants. But in order for them to do and make a difference in your business, you need to know what activities they need to perform and systemize your business. And if you can't do it yourself, you need to get a coach. It's okay.
Yeah.
I think that is a big leap that a lot of agents and myself struggled with, is the systemization and making this a real sustainable systemized business. People in the real estate industry, they just run it as a sales. Oh, I sold a house.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's great, but that's not going to feed you to in a few months from now,
Yeah.
right? So I feel like that is the problem with real estate. I don't know. You're the coach. You're the expert.
No, I
But
I love what you're saying, and it is so painfully common because we all, just like getting started in real estate, nobody's going to do it for you. No one's going to figure it out for you. So you have to figure it out, and all the reasons why you don't want to. So, or let me circle back. Whenever you have a few different priorities, right, and one of them is hiring help, easy rule of thumb, hiring help is now your top priority. It is the first one, because as soon as you do that, now that help is in place and the other things become easier, right?
Exactly.
Hiring help is always your top priority, and nobody wants to do it because or so many don't want to do it because we expect, or we're hoping for, someone who's going to come in and they're going to advise as well. Well, if you want to pay for that person, then go pay for that person. But the person who can not only do the job, but tell you what the job is too, that person costs a lot more, and they're harder to find. And it's not, so you have, if you're not delegating the tasks to them, you're abdicating your business. So you have to take full accountability for your entire business, and you have to take accountability for what is the process, what are the things I need for this person, what are the expectations, all these kind of things. And once you do that and you get over the hump, it'll be easier the next time. And it'll also be easier the next time because now they're doing the $10 an hour work for you.
Exactly. And if you don't know what kind of people to hire, or you have no systems, or you have no SOPs, right? Procedures, right? Standard operating procedures. If you've got none of that, you don't have to figure it out yourself. There are coaches out there like you, Johnny, right? That can help them to figure out what they need to be doing. I felt that there was no one out there to help me, and I had to figure it all out on my own because I was not open, or I didn't know that there was coaches out there that can just give you a blueprint and say, all right, here's the person you need to hire first. This is what they need to do for you. I think just a lot of agents, if you're out there listening, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. This has been figured out. And if you don't know it, get some help.
Yeah. If you can buy your time back, buy your time back. And that's the time
Absolutely.
that it takes to figure something out that could otherwise be used in growing your brand and growing your business and being happier and providing more value for your clients, all these things.
Absolutely.
Last question, Milana. I tell my clients momentum matters because motivation is fleeting. How do you maintain momentum, and how do you re-energize yourself to avoid prolonged dips in performance or activity?
I live on routine. So I try to turn everything into routine, whether it's, engaging on social media or time blocking my time. I do everything in a routine manner, and I believe routine makes things smoother in operations. My motivation might be a little bit different than most people because I almost lost my life in a car accident where I was the sole survivor. So because of that, I had two ways to go in life, and one is to go as a victim, and the other was to say, I'm on this side of the dirt and I'm lucky to be here. And so I carry through with that my everyday. Every time I'm tired or something bad happens, we all have off days. We all have disappointments. I'm super motivated, and I have a huge lust for life because I get to live it, and I know so many other people don't. And when you put life into that perspective, you just want to grab every second of life that you can. And I mean, I literally want to do everything. I want to travel everywhere. I just wish I had more time. But I carry that through my business because the thing is, my business allows me to have freedom. It allows me to achieve freedom. And so there's nothing more motivating than watching freedom across the room, saying hi, and you're just running to it, whatever it takes, just get to that freedom. So that's what I do. And I use routines to make my days easier because in our business, like I keep saying, you can stay really busy, and busy is great, but getting paid is better.
Yeah. That is the perfect place to end, Milana. And thank you so much for sharing your story, and especially that last anecdote right there. It makes my heart happy to just see the way that you have that you live that out. and I can feel your energy, and obviously your performance and accolades show that you have the grit, and there's something kind of moving that engine along, and that lust for life, and it's intoxicating for me. I'm sure for your clients as well.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on. I really enjoyed
Yeah.
sharing.
Yeah. Thank you so much.